So let's click resume. And hello everyone. Back to Factorio. So last time we were working on this thing up here. So we had a whole space station up here. It's just about ready to go, but we do need to give it supplies. So let's first just click that, just so that it has some of that stuff in it. And then, what else do we want? A good number of modules for everything. So just like 100 of each of these types, not going to worry about quality for now. And we finished our research, so let's put something else in there, like processing and productivity, because why not? Alright, so this is going to be sending the modules up. We have assembly machines. Okay, we're going to want more belts, definitely. So let's get another 3 inside. Loading up our stuff is so belts, electrical poles, and underground belts. Yeah, I guess. I know what happened. Okay. Yes. It's using the wrong microphone. So if I unplug that, put it back in. And I have to hit that button. All right, I think we're good now. All right, cool. Yeah, so my webcam has a built-in microphone, and sometimes OBS gets confused about which microphone it wants to be using, and it picks the wrong one. It hasn't happened in a while, but I guess that happened just now. All right, so we are all set back up, and in the meantime this has been launching all sorts of stuff. So this is gonna take a while to get set up. It looks like the rocket construction is almost entirely finished, so that's cool. It does look a little bit worrying in terms of item inputs, but that's probably just because we're completely stationary right now and we don't have many asteroids to pull from. So I'm not super worried about that. Alright, so that is all good. We're getting a whole bunch of random junk sent up. We are occasionally depleting some uranium fuel cells. Probably not an issue. Alright, so this is getting all backlogged properly. Alright, so what? There's still a whole bunch of stuff that we want to launch before we go. So let's drop back down to Novice. Wait, actually, hang on. You can get to Aquilo from Fulgora, which is convenient because I just remembered that I'm on Fulgora. So we're going to have to take this thing over to here to pick me up before we go off to Aquilo. So that shouldn't be much of a problem. It would have been annoying if those two planets weren't connected, though. Alright. This singular drone port sure is in the center of a lot of things. Somehow some copper wire got into these boxes. I have no idea how that could have happened. But it doesn't seem to be a consistent thing, so I guess I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, let's check down here. We have 11 of these and 37 of those. Oh, I see. We don't have any... We don't have any of these because we were short on green circuits. So, we need to get some green circuits collected up. And it should go through here eventually if we had enough of the other types of circuits. But it's not happening. Alright, we need to make sure that this is secure, because this is gonna basically just inevitably gonna pop at some point. Is this enough laser turrets? Yeah, it's probably enough laser turrets. It should be fine. Okay, so the thing that is causing the green circuit shortage is the copper wire shortage. And the thing causing the copper wire shortage is that this whole line is belt speed limited, basically. Alright, so let's try to do something about that. So if we take that out and run it up this way past all of those. Wait, no, that's not going to work at all because this isn't set up correctly for inserters. Although actually I can technically make this work like this, I guess. Alright, that's kind of a little bit cursed, but should be fine. And then this goes up to there. And all the way across to there. And these take 12.8 copper wire per second. So let's get this just with extra long-handled inserters, just so that there's maybe a chance of it handling the whole thing. And then just get those across. And hopefully that will help a little bit. So it's not going to be perfect, but it should marginally increase the rate of copper wire production. So now we can get these guys over here running occasionally. So that is basically all I can do here without adding like an entire additional row or something. which I guess I could do. But then we would get into the point where these are getting run around the clock, and we might actually already be at that point where we need another one of these. Yeah, so this is definitely backing up a little bit. So let's get you, and then you get connected up to there. And I don't know why I did it like that, but I'm sure it was some important reason. So now that can get set up and hopefully be enough. Actually, let's just copy that over again just to make sure. Just to make absolutely sure we have enough of that level so that it doesn't get jammed like it's currently almost doing. Alright, so that all goes in. Now this one is running as well. And this should be able to handle like 12-ish copper plates per second, which should be more than we're getting. If not, then I guess that's a good problem to have. Alright, so that's all set up. Now, you can go back up to here. And the laser turrets and walls we probably don't need. And the rest of this stuff is here. We finished our processing unit productivity. That's fun. Let's see here. What of these things do we have here that's still relatively affordable? Scrap recycling productivity? I guess let's do that. Alright. Yeah, let's send this... Let's send this over to Fulgora, where it can go and pick me up. And we're going to give you the settings so that you never move automatically. And we can just click on telling you where to go. You're apparently getting the rest of the walls. That's fine. Alright, now let's go back down to here and continue to stare at this a little bit. What else? Is there anything else going wrong here? No, it actually mostly looks fine in terms of all of this stuff. How's the iron plates going? Oh, the iron plates are also in serious trouble. Although those we can improve a lot by just doing that and that, and I don't know, some of that stuff. Alright, so now that'll use all of the rest of our epic modules, but it should increase the odds of this, at least somewhat. And every little bit of odds increase we can get helps a lot. So that is all going in. Alright, yeah, that's just fine. Okay, Aquilo support is doing just fine. Obviously the rockets aren't going to be shooting at anything on this leg of the journey because we don't have that type of asteroid. But as far as just making sure it basically functions, that's a good sign. We've got plenty of fuel. That should last us for ages. And the regular ammunition production is functioning. And in fact is functioning perfectly fine. And we're also moving real fast. So this shouldn't be that much of a wait. It's entirely possible that this gets jammed, but I think we've taken precautions against that, so it should be fine. Alright. The ammunition production, we only have one of these guys running at a time, which is good. If we had more than that, it might be a problem. So these guys have their ammo. As to these guys. And yeah, no troubles so far. Damage taken 0. And we're like 90% of the way there. Alright, there we go. Just a little bit further on that. Go back to Novice. Is iron plates just the singular limiting factor now? Like, has copper wire caught up? No, we still have a little bit of a backlog of iron plates. We have a little bit of an iron plates backlog. We have a blue circuit backlog and a red circuit backlog. So any green circuits we produce will just go through these and then pretty quickly be done. So hopefully that can start happening. And this... How long until these pop? Just 4 minutes. Okay. That's probably not going to be an issue because of all the laser turrets we have surrounding it. I might want to bring in a Spidertron just to make absolutely 100% certain that nothing unfortunate happens. It'd be a lot easier if we could just get the green circuits through and then not have to worry about it. But that is apparently quite difficult. Okay, the Spidertron is on its way, and I don't think there are any lakes in there. So that should be fine. Okay, Aquilo support is here. So now, I just need to run up this way to our rocket tower. And I need to build some passive provider chests and dump my inventory in so that I can launch properly. There goes the rest of that. Oh, I just realized I don't have a Spidertron ready to go to Aquilo with me. That's an issue. Okay, yeah, so this... Can you also go there directly from Novice? No. Okay. So let's go up there. We are going to want to grab a Spidertron. But first, let's just get ourselves up onto it. Alright, so back over to Novice. We need to get that Spidertron built up. So we get a Spidertron. We go to the equipment grid. And we have to remember what all the equipment we need for this is. It's like... Oh, a lot of this stuff I've just unlocked recently. So we're going to start with just like the basics. Night vision, we have a reactor. We have belt immunity grid. We have... Do we even need an energy shield? Probably not. So then we need a battery, a roboport. So let's get a couple of those in. 2 roboport Mark IIs. And we want some exoskeletons. Like that. And I don't know, maybe a tool belt. Tool belt definitely isn't going to hurt, at least. And what else could we want? Is there anything that I'm missing in here? I guess we'll put an energy shield in just in case. Alright, so now we need to craft some stuff, which hopefully won't be terribly complicated. So you need to make personal Roboport Mark IIs. And, oh, right, we had a whole system here of just being able to copy-paste these, and they have all the settings right, so let's do that. Paste you, set you to personal Roboport Mark IIs. Then we get another one, and you can be battery Mark IIIs, which we're actually not going to be able to do because we have the supercapacitors. Are we able to just craft those real quick? What does it take to craft a supercapacitor? Whole bunch of stuff that we do not have here. Okay, that's fine. We're gonna give up on those then and just use these ones. That should be a lot easier. And then we need this to be the tool belt, which needs freaking carbon fiber, because of course it does. Alright, so apparently that's not trivial either. So this is red circuits and carbon fiber. So if we just go over to Gleba, yeah, the tool belt isn't actually that important either though. Like, the space isn't a major concern. So that gets all loaded up. We are crafting the second Roboport Mark II. So the Spidertron should be all built up just any second now. Yes, it is. Alright, so now we need to go back to Novice to pick that up. And right, we technically unlocked mech armor at some point. I think I just like the Spidertron more than the mech armor, because it's just remote controllable, which is pretty great. So let's get that set up. So now we've got this Spidertron here. Actually, where are we crafting Spidertrons? I'm surprised we haven't run out of fish or whatever it is for those. Where do we craft the Spidertrons? Over here. We've got 2 spares to go. So yeah, we have 2 spare Spidertrons and a couple of other random stuff. And how does the power work? That's 750 kilowatts. These guys are a lot more than that. Alright, let's just like... Actually, if this is going to Aquilo, those are going to do nothing. Like, actually nothing. There's no point setting those up. So, is there... I guess, is there some way of arranging this for more exoskeletons? I guess... These 2 are 400 kilowatts. That's another 100. So that's 500 kilowatts. And this is providing 750. So theoretically, that's pretty much like when we want to be using a lot for the roboports. We can't really do that much better than that. Alright, so then you are going to request a Spidertron. And then we will dismantle that one. And it will then get carried away into storage somewhere. And hopefully that will be the one we choose to launch. If not, then who knows how that'll work. this is the one which has all of the equipment. It's also right next to the rocket silos, so hopefully it'll be the one that gets picked. And we are almost back to Novice. And science is still going. If we check down here, how is this going? The blue circuits are almost backlogged, which means we're almost at the point where we can start getting green circuits stored. Is that pile of these guys? Yeah, so they did pop. They seem to have been dealt with, I mean, easily enough that I didn't notice that it happened. So that's all good. Alright, and now we are here. And we have a Spidertron being launched. So there we go. Please say it's the right one. It is the right one. Very cool. Alright, anything else that we want? No, we're probably fine. So off we go. Back to Fulgora and then to Aquilo once we're there. So that is that. This corner up here keeps getting attacked by biters, which is this group coming down this way. Alright, so let's do something about that. And get a Spidertron up there. We're just going to make another artillery outpost real quick to deal with those guys. So up we go. Are you going to get stuck on the water? No, you should go around it. Alright, so now we just do this whole process again. So there you go. And we need to rebuild that with a Spidertron right next to it so that we can see where we're going to. We just sort of continue up this way. And keep moving. So then we just have to do that again. I guess this time we can move the Spidertron preemptively, and hopefully that'll work. No, it doesn't seem to be. Alright, so that's all built. We're in this area. I want to go a little bit further up. Just like maybe one more batch. Hey look, random biters. That's fun. Let's just hope that they just walk right past us. So the Spidertron is going to be up there somewhere. And that goes in. And that gets dragged up to there. So now this is a pretty respectable place to clear out most of these guys, I would say. But we do have to wait until all these extra power poles are filled in. So let's see, we have these two missing as the only ones which currently haven't been set up. And here they come. Because we wanna have the ability for the laser turrets to be active immediately. Okay, so we've arrived at Fulgora. And now we move to Aquilo. So let's do that. Alright, now we can build in our... Where is it? Turret... box. No, it was in this section, right? Artillery outpost, that's what it was called. Alright, so then this just goes somewhere up there. And then the Spidertron is going to stand in a central location to get all those built up immediately. Alright, so now this should be all properly defended. And that should be that. So Spidertron can then return. And let's watch this go. Because we have never been to Aquilo before. There's no way of knowing if it will make it. We apparently have plenty of asteroids, so that is clearly not an issue. And the inner loop is looping, although it's not recycling. So that's a concern. So this, I mean, there's currently a good ratio of the different types here, but there's not necessarily a guarantee that it'll stay that way. Alright, so this route, the big asteroids are already possible. Mostly oxide asteroids, apparently. The rest are all very unlikely, but there should theoretically be big oxide asteroids somewhere, like this one. And that, yes, that just gets rocketed down. No problem. Alright, so that seems to be working. We don't seem to have any significant drain on that supply of rockets. So this, I mean, it'll get more intense as we go because the rates increase over time. But currently it's not even close to being a problem. Currently it is 100% fine. That's always good. It looks like the rockets do plan ahead how many to launch to just exactly destroy it. So that's cool. So that's going. Okay, some damage is done on Novice. That's probably to the new artillery outpost. We're past the midway point and we're accelerating even more. Rocket supply and regular ammo supply, no problem in either one. Alright. Man, these big rockets sure are... These big asteroids sure are big. The rocket turrets are very cool though. And there are definitely getting to be quite a few of them. But not at all an issue. This looks quite secure. If it doesn't get, like, dramatically worse than this, then there's not going to be an issue. So currently we're at 13 per minute, and it goes up to like 17 per minute. So, yeah, if it's not going to get like 3 or 4 times as intense as this, there shouldn't be any concerns. Alright. So these guys, and their band of availability is pretty good. So we shouldn't have... I mean, if they get too close, though, like if 2 or 3 of them manage to sneak through, then we could have a problem. I guess it's possible to get like locally overwhelmed in one point because the band where they'll actually shoot is relatively small. and their shooting rate isn't very fast. So like if they're like 3 in a row bearing down on one turret, then it might not be able to destroy all of them in time. Although basically that happened and it was not an issue. Alright, at this point we're basically there. In fact, we're probably... yeah, now we're at the point where it's going down dramatically. So we are all cleared. No damage taken. A lot of the backlog... I mean, technically the backlog reduced a little bit. But we have so many spare rockets that it was not an issue. And there we go. A little bit more. And, alright, no, what are you doing? Why are you going back? You stay there until that. Alright, so now we are stopped at Aquilo. So that is a success. We've officially made it there. And now, let us drop to planet. And down we go. So this is the moment of truth. Travel to planet Aquilo. Alright. We have landed on an iceberg looking thing. Alright, so first let's go back up to here. Do you have a... oh, I forgot to send up like the most important thing for this entire thing. Of course, I didn't send a space landing pad thing. Whoops. That's quite annoying. Because we've got all of this stuff here that we need to drop down. And let's see here. How do we get this? Well, I guess we can start by just dropping the Spidertron down. And I guess we're going to have to send this all the way back. I guess you're just going to have to go all the way back and pick up the one thing that you need. Yeah, that was quite the oversight. So we need a cargo landing pad. And we don't need to send up another Spidertron. So we dismantle that, place it down. And now we're in. We are in the Spidertron. And how good is the Roboports? 57 by 57. I think that's pretty good, right? Alright, this is a tiny little space that we're on. So I guess we need to figure out what exactly we're doing here. Lithium process, mine entity big lithium ice formation. So that is going to be step 1. Alright, we have to get like right on top of it. Click that. So how is that? How's this going? You fine? Yeah, you're still intact. Just occasionally taking chip damage. Alright, so we've got that unlocked, which gives us lithium and lithium plates. And then for the next step, we need to craft a lithium plate, which just requires lithium, which we can also craft with holmium plates, lithium brine, and ammonia. Okay, this is going to be a thing. We have ice platforms. That's cool. We finished scrap recycling randomly. Let's see here. There's got to be like something on here. I guess electric weapons damage, which I just have never done. Okay, so let's deconstruct another one of you. So now we need yeah, we need a furnace for this, which means we just sort of have to wait here. We do have crude oil present on this iceberg type thing that we're sitting on here. Alright, so that is all good. Another thing we need to check for this, you have... Do you have power plant material? You've got uranium fuel cells, plenty of steam turbines, heat exchangers, heat pipes. But do you have... what are they called? No, you don't have heating towers. Alright, so let's add heating towers, I guess, onto the list of things for you to bring next time around. And so while you're doing that, I'm just gonna go back to working on this whole setup here. So we have green circuits as the major limiting factor now, which means that they are mostly getting through. Crafting us those. Unfortunately, our whole giant stockpile of biter eggs is gone now. Right in time for everything else to finally get caught up. Right, electric weapons damage has been completed. I guess we can do refined flammables, even though I don't think I've ever used one of those things. I'm not sure if I ever will. Alright, so the coal processing is doing its thing. This is still making its own green circuits, which have to go across and do all their stuff. And that's going quite slowly. These green circuits here are almost at the point where they're just going through 100%. And now we have enough copper cables that iron plates are the limiting factor. So, that is basically just how much faster can we make this? We don't have that many epic quality modules, which is unfortunate. Let's upgrade laser shooting speed. Apparently that's super far behind. So if we were to just add like a second row of this stuff in back here, then that would work. But it would also... Let's see here. I'm kind of surprised that we're able to fully saturate this while all of these are working. Alright, so yeah, anyways, let's get you back here like that, and then get that power line connected back in. Apparently this is where we make our quality electric poles. Alright, so then these go in to that row. Laser shooting speed is finished. Let's get more laser. Let's see here. What on here is low? Follower robot count, but I don't ever use those. Artillery is all pretty high. Alright, let's do an artillery shell range upgrade. That'll be fun. Alright, so then we have that row of crafting machines in. So now we need to get it connected up, which means going just like that. And we have to wait a little bit for the quality modules to show up before we let that do anything too crazy. But we can get the output half constructed in advance. So that all goes in. And now these all go in. And then we get those settings pasted. And that should... I mean, it might overwhelm this supply here. Who knows? Okay, then we apparently need power poles for all of these guys. So those can get set up. And now we have way more boxes. And that should... Let's see, if it overwhelms this supply, then that's going to be an issue. But these guys can take like 12 boxes each. So that's relatively good at keeping up. And we keep losing laser turrets over on this corner. Yeah, so that's because of all of these guys, which we're still planning on capturing eventually. So we still don't want to destroy that. So let's just be fine with that. It should be secure enough anyways. And we've also occasionally taking damage up here, which should be cleared out from this guy. So that should be all set. And this is making its way back. It actually does use a relatively large amount of uranium fuel. It was at 50 plus before we set out, and now it's down to 28. So I guess we can set you up a little bit. And actually what we can do is we can work to make this run less often, because that would definitely help a little bit on the fuel efficiency front, because the power production here is way higher than it realistically needs to be. So if we were to like set up some logic circuit thing in here. Alright, so let's first... Do we need storage tanks on the steam, which we're going to need to send up. And then we need a decider combinator, which will read those storage tanks. And that is like 100k steam. And then we just need to set this up so that it works. So it's going to read the steam, and if the steam is greater than 100,000, or the steam, we just have to do like a basic latch system here, or the steam is greater than 20,000, and then we just need a full battery equals 1 output full battery of 1. So then that connects up, and then this just has to run across, and I guess we're gonna need some random power poles for this to have enough distance, despite the fact that they don't do anything especially useful on this system. So we can just do that. I guess we can just randomly connect into that. and then connect into those two. Okay, so these only do reading. So we need to connect into the inserters that power them. So you need to be enable disable on full battery equals 0. I think that should work. Oh, and this needs to be greater than or equal to 100K. So are you gonna work? No, we need to be a little bit more lenient then. So we set you up like that. And so now we have plenty of steam. We have plenty of steam, which means that these are disabled. And then when we run out of steam, then these will enable again, and that'll get restarted. Okay, so in the meantime, you have your cargo landing pad, which is the thing that we need to accomplish basically anything. Alright, so yeah, this should be all set up now. There's probably some other stuff that I want, but we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to send you back. And off you go. So this should only use steam when necessary. And the solar panels we have are capable of doing a lot of the work when we're here above Novice. Although, I don't know what that's all about. But, yes, the solar panels should be capable of doing the work while we're above Novice. And then, when we're further out, this will have to do more. It's already doing a little bit on occasion. And, I mean, the heat is gonna keep the steam running for a while, so it'll actually be quite a long time, theoretically, before this does anything. Alright, so that's going back. Then this is still working properly. We're starting to clear out that area. There's our ammunition supply. Still plenty of ammo. So nothing there is broken. And now we're just dealing with all these guys. So that is all looking good. Back on Aquilo. We don't have a furnace or anything, so we're just going to have to wait a little bit more for our stuff to show up. Which hopefully should be quick. Because theoretically it's a pretty fast transport. Alright, so that all the biter extermination is going well. Then down here we're back to a couple extras of those. Okay, now we're managed to simultaneously be short on copper wires and iron plates. So that's interesting. We do have 18 productivity modules though. So, is there anything I can do to improve that? Yeah, I can use some of these epic productivity modules in that one and in those three. So this is the one which is furthest back, so theoretically, since red circuits aren't a limiting factor, this should be the one which runs most frequently, which means it'll get the most use out of the quality circuits. So that's 1,000, that's 600, that's 500. These two are also quite high, but that's because they were running a lot when red circuits were the limiting factor. Now that that isn't the case, these will probably just like almost never run, so this is a more effective place to put them. Alright, so that is all good. We still need a couple more of those to finish off that. And then we just have our space platform shown back up. This coal supply is almost completely starved already. Yikes. Okay. So that's our next step, is find some more coal. We've got that one. Is there any just like giant coal patch somewhere with 20 billion coal? Turn pollution overlay off. No, it's pretty much just that one. And I guess that one over there. That one's kind of small. Yeah, we're using up a whole lot of coal in the process of what we're doing. So we need to just get down to here, which fortunately we've got another one of these. So let's take this train track down that way, and then take this one sort of around there, and then follow it down. Alright, so something like that should be fine. And then this just sort of has to... We want to add a junction on so that it doesn't get trapped. So let's just put a four-way junction there, and we need to get the drone coverage into this area. So let's get that set up and connect it up to power. And then probably gonna need one up there. There's probably some weird corner that would be missing otherwise. Okay. Yeah, so that there would have been a tiny little chunk in there missing, which would have been incredibly frustrating, and I never would have figured out about it. So now that isn't going to be a problem. So now let's run those power lines out that way. Get a couple of drone ports connected up. Hopefully that's spaced well. It's hard to tell, but hopefully it is. And then that's like halfway to Aquilo. Alright, that's in. And this roboport should be connected across properly. So there we go. Just waiting on all of these drones to show up. And alright, so that is that. Now we just have to connect these guys into the T-junction and move the drone coverage forwards to compensate. So that goes out to there. And almost set up. We just need this drone port so we can see into this area. And probably a bit more as well. So there we go. All that stuff is getting built out. And we're probably not going to get this finished. So this, let's see. This is basically out of coal at this point. So we do need to get this done before all sorts of things start breaking. So let's get these guys to just keep on moving forwards. And I guess we can get those all set up across that way. And we're almost at the point where I'll be able to see the coal patch properly. So that is cool. Meanwhile, this is almost up to Aquilo, which I think we do just need to finish off getting this coal attached in before we can worry about that. Because I have no idea what will and won't break without access to a steady supply of coal. So I think it's kind of risky to just ignore that. Okay. Speaking of kind of risky things, we should get a couple rows of signals on there so that it doesn't break. Okay, so then this needs to go out to there, and then another one can go out to like there probably, and then the power lines go across accordingly. Alright, so that should be all the drone port connections that we need. Oh my god, there was... Okay, we needed the train tracks to get drone port connected across, but we totally could have just gotten the drone connections from up there, and it would have been fine. Ah well. Alright, so this should be all the drone coverage that we need. Now we get to start building this up. So we go here, big mining drill, and we just start getting our rows in. And another row facing that way. And another one. And another one. And we don't have the big mining drills here on Novice to finish this off right away. That's fine, we'll get there eventually. Okay, so the next step is the power lines, which we should be able to squeak in here with underground belts. And like that, and then across like this. Alright, now we get underground belts along all of that, and along that, and along that. Alright, now we just connect our power poles across like that, so that these are all powered up. And okay, since apparently the number of big mining drills is a limiting factor, let's go through and dismantle some of those that aren't being used anymore. Where else do we even have big mining drills? It's hard to say. A whole lot of regular mining drills out here for some reason. Okay, this one has a bunch of big mining drills. It's also nowhere near finished, so we can just leave that as is. Alright, so now we need the train stop, so that can go in like that, and then up a little bit like that. And then these two halves just connect in to our junction. And now we get the train stop itself in. And so this goes around this way. So I think the train stop goes in like that. And you are going to be set as coal source. Alright, so that hopefully will get placed in pretty quickly. surely it's got to be one of these drones, right? Of course, it's the last possible thing placed. And I just need to know how it's all getting lined up. Alright, anyways, we can get these all connected up so that they're all going to go onto a single belt. And actually, let's upgrade these belts. That seems like a useful thing to have. Alright, so now that is in. Now we need... Okay, yeah, the train is here already. It's going to be a little bit before that gets set up. So you get all of those. And then we get some boxes in. And then we get a second row of inserters to feed the boxes. Okay, then we just get the belts to feed these inserters. And then we get the splitters to feed these belts. So you go like that. You go like that. And then you are up like that. And then you go like that. All of these inserters need to have power poles. And then those power poles need to be connected into the grid. And then this belt needs to come around and meet up with that. And then this whole giant thing, I just remembered we want to upgrade you. Alright, so that should be all clear. So it's going to take a while to get built, but it should get there eventually. And that should provide us our coal. And then we need to go up to here. And you are going to have to be reorganized slightly. So we turn all of these around. And this is going to become a coal destination. Because we do have local spots here which need coal supply. So these all get turned around like that. This gets set to coal destination. And then these belts need to get turned around and merged up like that. One more. Alright, so then that goes like that, and then it just outputs into there. Alright, and then this belt can also go into that side, because why not? And that should be able to provide us our coal to that. And is this functioning? Yes, it is. We are loading up a train already. Very cool. So with that, we should be safe to look back to Aquilo. So let's drop down our cargo landing pad. And that should be landing somewhere around here. And we can get it set up. Where are you, cargo landing pad? There it is. Alright, so we pick that up, pop it down, and now we can dump all the rest of this stuff down. No particular order, just sort of down it goes. And I think we have reached the ability of something to keep up. I think probably the cargo landing pad itself might not be able to accept things faster than this. So let's give that a little bit of time and then start dropping all the rest of this junk. Okay. There we go. And I should then be pulling this into my personal inventory as well. So there we go. And then back up to Aquilo support. We've got just all of this stuff left to go. Wait. No. Alright. We managed to save the nuclear fuel. That is good. We managed to save the nuclear fuel again. So we need the nuclear fuel in order for this to function. Otherwise, this whole thing might accidentally get stranded, which would be quite bad. That'd be about the worst thing possible. Alright, so the nuclear fuel is still here, which means that this is fine. You can just go back to Novice now that we've dropped everything down. So now let's grab all the rest of this stuff. Alright, so our next step is to craft a lithium plate, which is in here somewhere. There you are. Just some lithium in a furnace. Okay, so we're gonna have to get power set up as well. And that is gonna mean heat, apparently. Alright, so we get a heating tower. And let's see, where do we put that? Just somewhere. So we've got that. And we now... See, I don't entirely know how this works. There's a thing in here, probably. Heating mechanics. Heating tower can generate heat from fuel. Uses heat pipes to transfer heat into other entities. Every entity needs to be touching a heat sourcer in order to not freeze. Exception is electric poles, solar panels, and accumulators. Very cool. So this goes across to there. So that should be touching that. Now, I just dump some stuff into there. Then this is now not frozen. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 is we need to get power somehow out of this whole system. So we need water. How do we get water? Because these are probably... I mean, I guess they might be. Oh, but we need iron plates in order to do, like, basic crafting stuff. Right. Of course. Of course we do. So I guess in the meantime, we can get some ridiculous little solar panels going. And this is not gonna be incredibly effective. Alright, so then we get that in. And you can bring power across to that. Apparently that doesn't connect. Alright, so now if I just dump lithium into that, we should complete the tech at least, eventually. Although it's low power. We're generating 8.4 kilowatts out of that. Fantastic. Okay. So we need you to pause that, close that down a little bit to not have as much junk in it. What do we need you to send? We want you to send some basic crafting materials just so that we can do some stuff here. And maybe steel plates. Alright, let's say that for now. So if we do this, we get ice and ammonia from those pumps. Then we can turn the ammonia and crude oil into solid fuel and rocket fuel. But then we also get that ice, which we can then use to make water for power. Okay, so what is that thing that we just unlocked? We've just unlocked the cryogenic plant, which needs superconductors to craft, because of course it does. And then it crafts some other stuff as well. And we need some of that to make a science pack. Alright, so the cryogen plant, we're going to need to pick up superconductors, processing units, and refined concrete. So let's get those set up. Processing units. Where's the refined concrete? Get a good solid chunk of that. And we also want superconductors, which you can pick up from Fulgora directly. It'd be nice if your current trip took you over Fulgora, but it looks like it's prioritizing Gleba instead. Alright, so we've got this set up. What else can we do in the meantime? We can get a chemical plant to make ice and ammonia, but we need the pumps for that, and none of these guys are going to have like iron or anything in them, so we do just simply need to import that stuff. Okay, I guess we can efficiency module you. That will help a little bit. Well, it'll help a little bit, but also this, the heat is gonna stop working soon. So we are going to, I don't want to use this extra rocket fuel until we are actually doing something useful, because we need to set up a basic production line in order to make power. So I guess that we can set that up. We're obviously not going to be using it immediately, but we can have it. So we need a chemical plant to make ice and ammonia. And then we need some crude oil to make solid fuel. So step one, to get a chemical plant in. Let's see, where can we do this? We need this to be somewhere with space. So we get a chemical plant in, and that is going to be set up to make that stuff. And then we take its output like that. Oh god, the belt too. The belt too. Okay, that is complicated. And the pipes. Okay. That's gonna make things a bit harder than I anticipated. So you get your inputs, then you output your ice and your ammonia. Then we have another chemical plant, which is going to be taking the ice and melting it to water. And that is going to be a bit of a process here. So this produces 5 theoretically, so we would need like a couple of these. And I have no idea how this whole heating thing is going to end up working. So then that produces our water. And then we can feed that water into a heat system somehow. Aquilo support. This is also like a lot further away than we normally are, which is not ideal. It means that it's a lot longer of a delay. Like, ordinarily when you're just one stop away, it's just like, you know, one leg of the trip, two legs for a round trip. Then here it's, you have to take like 4-ish legs just to get there and 4-ish legs back. So it's definitely a lot slower. Alright, so we have our water. Then we would need to heat exchanger some of that water, which would go through like this. Cannot build on smooth ice. Unfortunate. So then this would need to go down like somewhere else then, I guess like this. Yeah, that smooth ice thing is going to be a problem. So we have something like that, and then this gets a heat pipe there, and then the water pipe can go in like that, and then that produces steam pipes, but we can't use it because the smooth ice is there. Can we build these in this area? No, that's just unbuildable. Alright, this is kind of a nightmare. So you have your iron plates. We're still getting the rest of this stuff going up. Now, we have to make sure to send up enough to actually get there. Okay, it's not that much of everything. Just 20 of each and 40 refined concrete. Alright, so how is this all gonna work? We need more space, really. I wonder if we can like heat up the smooth ice and melt it and then place the foundations in afterwards. So these ice platforms. So if we let's try that first. So we are gonna just take some of that out, then fill that in. So it looks like this covers like what? Literally a single tile of width? How is that even possible? Like, we have to run so much stuff, and fitting heat pipes everywhere is going to be... It doesn't seem doable. Okay, what if we run that out to there? So the smooth ice still can't do anything about, apparently. Okay, and then when we dismantle that, all that goes away. This is going to be real difficult. This is not going to be easy at all. So I guess we can chuck more lithium in there to keep that going. It's quite the puzzle indeed. Alright, so none of this is going to work because it's all too close together. Alright, so we need to figure all this stuff out. So we've got this. It produces an underground pipe and a belt. How do we get that all set up? I mean, it has to do something like that, right? But then, how do we get things onto the belt? How do we get things onto the belt like this? Okay, maybe if we have you go over like that way, and then you output to there. So then we have our pipe go out that way. Apparently it's nighttime now. Forgot that solar panels have a day-night cycle. Very inconvenient. Alright, are you all set up? Yeah, you're basically all set up. You can start working your way back. Okay, so we need this heat pipe to... Okay, it does hit diagonals, so that's something, I guess. I guess that is maybe something that can be worked with. Let's see, if we have this to be an underground pipe like that, and then you go up to there, and then around to there. I mean, this is so extraordinarily difficult just to get the output of one single machine. I must be missing something. I must be missing some obvious trick to it. There's got to be some clever technique that I'm not thinking of. Maybe if we just use long-handled inserters, we can get extra space in here. I mean, that kind of works, but not great. So if we were to take that apart, have you be a long-handled inserter, then that makes this a lot simpler because we can just run that along like that. Oh, no, it does need that one to hit the machine itself. Alright, so we do this, we get our ice cubes, we get our ammonia. Then we need to take the ice cubes and melt them into water like that. Is this on its way? Yes, but it's taking the wrong path. Oh well. We'll get it to Fulgora at some point. So that goes in like that. Then we get the power grid across. Okay. So then we have this to make water. And then we get a heat exchanger, which just needs heat anyways. So let's bring that up to there. And that makes steam, which we can then just put directly into a steam turbine, and then apparently rotate to get another steam turbine. And then we just need these steam turbines to be heated up. Okay. And I think we just need to get that heat active again so that we can get enough heat down this way. Alright, so there we go. And then we get the power pole across, and then this should all work. Alright, then that loops around. So this is all set up, meaning if we can get the ammonia solution in there and then somehow deal with the ammonia, so that's going to be the next step. So we need to get crude oil to combine with the ammonia to make solid fuel, which we can then burn in the heating tower, and then that should be that. So do I have oil rigs in here? Where are those? Pump jacks? No. Well, that's what the crafting supplies that are getting delivered are for. So we need a chemical plant, which, I don't know. Why is everything always smooth ice? Like, where am I supposed to build? It's such a mess. Alright, if we go down here, we can build. So you would take that. And then this pipe, we need you to get somewhere. So we need you to go down across that, and then that to keep it covered, and then this sneaks into there, and of course that's all smooth ice, so this needs to come around this way, and then that electric furnace is going to have to move. Okay, so that's all in. Then this line here didn't end up being necessary. So that is that. And then we need our output belt. And you get your input there. Then the heating can wrap around this way to get all of that done. Then this belt comes up this way and into the heating tower. Okay, then you need to get powered, and we then need to run this all the way along. Alright, so this might work. So we need to get a pipe from like all the way over here this is more... How do they expect this to be at all manageable with the smooth ice being impossible to build on? I'm not missing something, right? Like, you can't like landfill this or ice platform it. So that is very, very difficult to deal with. So we need to get this. No, that's all smooth ice as well. Okay, there is apparently a path through there, although I don't know if it's wide enough to get a heat pipe in. It is, apparently. So we can do all that. Oh, no, it isn't. Of course not. So what if you go underground like that, so that this heat pipe can go in that way, and then you go underground again so that that heat pipe connects up. Alright. Now we just have to hope that this is possible. So we can send down iron, copper plates, steel plates, processing units, refined concrete, and the belts supply and power pole supply should be fine for now. Alright, so that stuff gets to show up. And let's dump some of these modules that we'll probably want in the future, but not right now. Alright. Please say that that is enough. Alright, so we can craft one of those. We need to grab some of the copper. Throw that landfill away. To craft a pump jack or two. Alright, so first off, offshore pump goes up there, and then brings that down to there. I hope we're not about to run out of heat pipes. That would be bad. Oh, we are definitely about to run out of heat pipes. Okay. Aquilo support, back to novice you go. Preferably via Fulgora, actually. So there's some stuff from that we need you to pick up. Alright, so we have 2 heat pipes left, which is not going to be enough to do much of anything. Okay, that is apparently unusable. Okay, something... So biters did get over to here. I thought they wouldn't. Apparently I was wrong. I thought this was, like, far enough away from anything that it wouldn't be an issue. It's annoying, but not the end of the world. Let's get some laser turrets in. We actually just do not have any space to build anything, so we kind of just have to wait for the Spidertron to show up. It's right here. There we go. Problem solved. And now let's build defenses for this. So that gets along to there. And then we get up to there. And I suppose they could technically come from this side. So we'll just set up a relatively loose wall there. And then in case something incredibly bizarre happens, we can set that up. And that should keep that nice and secure. Okay, so back to Fulgora. we need to be getting a pump jack placed. Okay, are any of these actually buildable? There's got to be something I'm missing. How are you meant to build on that? Let's see here. Aquilo briefing. Concrete is used as a foundation for buildings and protects the ice from melting. Okay, so that might be what we need to do. Yes. Okay, so we can use concrete to cover up this. So we do that. And then we should be able to put a pump jack here. Yes, alright. So that's something figured out at least. So we don't need to do all of this extra nonsense for that. We just need to place some concrete every so often. And then that pipe. Okay, no, that was an underground pipe, not a regular one. And that goes across to there. And connects down to that. And that goes around. We have 6 heat pipes left, which I imagine will not be enough to connect all the way back up to there. Apparently it isn't even enough to connect this portion through. Okay, no, it's just that the fuel we put in here earlier is ran low. So let's run that up, and we can craft some more heat pipes. So let's run that along, and now we just need to connect it up to this, which we can actually just go up that way for. Alright, so that is connected up. So next we need to move this cargo landing pad. So step 1, a lot of this stuff we can just shove into there. Not all of it though. We actually want most of it. We want a couple of those. A couple of each of these. Some of that stuff. And what else? We want our pump jacks. A couple assembly machines. Chemical plants. Long-handled inserters, boxes, what else is there? A lot of this stuff isn't super urgent, so we can just leave it in the Spidertron for now. Okay, so with that all being connected up, we need to get this across. And under... No, that's not going to work. We need that to go away. And then this to go under like that. And then up over that way. Okay, then we need to move that heat pipe a little bit. This needs to go like that. Well, that ramps around to there. Then this heat pipe needs to connect down like that. And then that gets connected into power. Okay. We probably need even more. Okay, let's empty the landing pad out so that we can just move it somewhere out of the way. Where are you going? You can just go like down here somewhere. And how do you not have... Oh, I see. We need to divide the construction bots between me and the Spidertron. Alright, so that is now down there. So this makes oil, which goes into here, which makes fuel. Alright, let's try it. So if we boot that up, then all of this is going to warm, and hopefully it will then produce the various supplies and start making fuel, which can make this self-sustaining. Hopefully. Okay, it looks like some of this stuff down here isn't connected up quite right. So let's get that underground. Let's get more heat pipes crafted. So you are there. You need to get back to Novice to grab more heat pipes. Alright, so then that goes all the way down to there. And this should just be a matter of getting this started. And you need to keep producing heat, though, because we're not quite there yet. So this is making our ice. This needs to be like 500 degrees Celsius in order to do anything. That seems like a challenge, getting us up to there. Okay, and it's also simultaneously nighttime. Not that we had that much power during the daytime, but we have none during night. Alright, so we need to bring power poles down there, which fortunately is relatively straightforwards. Got uranium for some nuclear reactor heat. Yeah, I mean, I want this to be able to set up to work on its own, though. So theoretically, this should be enough. We don't have any of this stuff done yet, though. And how much rocket fuel? We only have one stack of rocket fuel left, too. Okay, yeah, that is a bit dicey. I don't think we'll be able to make it with what we have. So, Aquilo support. Could you request more rocket fuel? Maybe even nuclear fuel, honestly. Although we don't have any of that at the moment. But if we can make some, that would certainly help. So you need to just grab a whole bunch of rocket fuel. How much you fit in a rocket? Just 100. Alright, so back to Novice. Do we have the ability to just make nuclear fuel? Yeah, it's relatively easy. Alright, so let's get some of that stuff crafting up then. So we're just going to pop you there. Wait, is it a chemical plant or something? What is this done in? In a centrifuge. Alright, that makes sense. So we get a centrifuge, you're going to make nuclear fuel. And you're going to pull from that and output to a box. And then you have an input of rocket fuel. Which does not need to be that much. But we will speed module you, maybe. Actually, can you be productivity moduled? Yes, you can. So you get the whole speed and productivity treatment. Like that. And then you get your power poles in. Alright, so that should get us a better fuel for this in the short term. I need this to just be able to work off of the heating tower that it has. I don't want to have to do extra stuff for all that. Alright, so yeah, either Gleba or Fulgora off to Aquilo. And then we have to get that stuff to here. So, this is still getting its rocket fuel delivered. And now it's going. The speed modules haven't been delivered, so it's really, really slow right now. But there we go. So now we get these at a slightly less terrible rate, although it's still pretty bad. Let's get a couple more speed modules in. Why not? It's not like we're using any of this uranium anyways. I mean, hardly any of it. So you... Honestly, let's just set this up even higher. We should only need it to get it jump-started, but the more the merrier. Heating towers available on the planet is only 1. So something must have gone wrong with that production. Where would we make heating towers? We need boilers. And apparently we don't have any boilers. Alright, where do we make boilers, if anywhere? No clue. Let's make some boilers. So you go in there. Where are the boilers? Am I blind? Am I blind? Yes, I am blind. Okay, cool. Found them. So that just gets from a requester chest, which is pipes and furnaces. Pretty sure I have both of those. We add pipes and we add furnaces, and we get that whole thing powered up. Apparently there are 24 furnaces on the way, but none in logistics storage. So where do I craft stone furnaces? And also, where do I even get stone from in the first place? Don't we do some weird cursed thing with our stone at some point? Okay, yeah, we have this whole belt of stone. We have this, which is meant to craft stone furnaces, but this belt has coal on it instead of stone. How did that happen? How on earth did that happen? Okay, it's fine. We can fix this by... You can just import stone and then export the furnaces. And then I'll have a couple places making boilers, I guess. So there we go. That's all functional. No idea what was up with that. So there is 7 available on planet. Rocket capacity is 10. So we're just going to wait a little bit more for the rest of this nuclear fuel to get set up. And this is going at 0.04 per second, so that will take a little bit, I guess. This all somehow still has some temperature. So, oh wait, actually, it might be enough, actually, if we just get that connected through. So this is now making solid fuel. Yeah, we might not need anything at all. This might work. Although we will probably, yeah, we're going to need more to get the heat exchanger actually going. So this consumes 10 megawatts of heat. This generates 40 megawatts of heat at max. So if we can keep it completely filled, then we would be fine. Do not know how likely it is for us to be able to keep it completely filled, though. We will be getting some solid fuel out of this to get that started again. Ah, yes. The fast inserter. Witness its speed. There we go. And another exceptionally fast inserter. There we go. So that will keep... It'll help a little bit to get that solid fuel in there. This is 12 megajoules of fuel, whereas rocket fuel is 100 megajoules. And nuclear fuel is 1.2 gigajoules. So that's all a thing. Alright, the nuclear fuel is up. So now we can bring this up to Aquilo, and hopefully we won't have any further problems with the supply of heat. It looks like this is just barely able to keep things warm, but isn't going to be producing power anytime soon. These ultra slow inserters are just absolutely hilarious to watch. Just slow motion. And we do have enough ammonia, apparently, and everything else. Alright, so this is doing its thing. What else do we need? If we want to craft a cryogen plant, what do we need for that? We need more lithium and some superconductors and refined concrete. Alright, if we need more lithium, then I guess we can set up this electric furnace. Where is that? I know we had one like 5 seconds ago. Put it in the Spidertron, I guess. Yeah, so let's get you in just there. And you can absorb more of the power. Okay, speaking of absorbing power, let's just efficiency module all of those guys. Just to help a little bit. The demands are 400 kilowatts. Our solar panels are making like 6. Fantastic. Alright, so we have enough ice production. This is producing its water. This is occasionally getting some water. And this is... yeah, it looks like this is just, like, barely enough to keep things going, but isn't enough to actually produce excess heat to get the whole thing running. So, if we want to do that, we need probably to make rocket fuel, maybe? That's 10 solid fuel, 50 water, 500 ammonia to rocket fuel, which is 100 megajoules. That doesn't seem like that actually gets us anywhere in terms of power production, because the solid fuel is 12, and if you're using 10 of them to get 10, that's no good. If we had productivity modules, maybe, but that would just increase the power demand anyways, so like, what are we even doing there? Alright. So it seems like solid fuel is going to have to be the way to go for now. And then maybe we can find some room for more solar panels. Right, I always forget. In order to use the Spidertron's inventory, we have to go into this view. Alright, so let's get some more solar panels up in this area up north that's like impossible to deal with otherwise. And then get some substations in to get that whole area covered. And let's see, that substation covers like everything, and then we just need to connect it in with some of that stuff. And then we just need that to go up like that. Alright, solar power, still incredibly embarrassing, slightly less terrible. So hopefully that will get things running at least a little bit more, like more than twice as fast, almost 3 times as fast. Still no good, but it's something. So in theory, this machine at maximum output would be 2 per second, which would be 24 megajoules per second, which would be enough to run this heating tower around the clock, because it takes 16 megawatts. Now, as far as the amount of ammonia we get, that's 50, this is 30, that is like 20-ish, and this is 2. Oh, we can also efficiency module this pump jack, that will help a little bit. Alright, everything that can be efficiency moduled is efficiency moduled. We're still not going well, but it is better at least. It seems like the temperature is still just going down though. So how close is this? It's most of the way. It's on the last leg of the trip, and it's made a good chunk of progress on that leg. So it's going. I mean, this heat supply is looking a lot better now. And this is running like... How fast is this running? Almost no electricity, but it is... I don't know, maybe 10% of its maximum speed. Absolutely awful. You can tell it's bad when the inserters are making a non-trivial effect on your output. Actually, yeah, these are the fast inserters. That's actually so much. I mean, I guess it's good that we're being efficient. But boy, those chemical plants sure are something. Alright, so this is just gonna keep going like this until we can get some proper fuel in. Although, maybe... Yeah, we might as well. We might as well throw that rocket fuel in to get this going a little bit in advance of when the rocket gets here. We're not going to need that anymore once we have our extra supplies. Alright, so this is going. It's now, hopefully this will be able to get the heat. If not, then I'll be sad, but I think it's possible. It just is going to take a long time for the heat to get over here, and there's probably going to be losses in the process, so who knows. Maybe we just get a second heating tower just over this way, and... Oh, that's actually just going to make it so much worse. Just getting stuff over there as well is going to require more belts, which is going to require more heat pipes. And it's also going to require, like, this to do something weird and cursed to loop around properly. Okay, what if we just yoink that out of there, send it in there. So now we have like a very short term where this is kind of running and this is going to be fully running for a little bit. And so this should now just be getting the full blast of the heating tower. And the resupply is on its way. Resupply is on its way. And we're definitely going to need it. So that ran out of fuel. We got nowhere close to getting that one heated up. And now this is also out of fuel. So what? Okay, yeah, because it's coming around to be nighttime. Which means trouble for this. But Aquilo support is here. So we can launch all that down, and all that down. Also going to need some of this stuff. I'm not entirely sure what of all that we're going to need in the short term. But let's just send it all down. Alright, so let's grab some of that, some of that, some of that stuff, and a couple of those. Okay, so you get some of that, you get some of that. Should last you for quite a while. Hopefully long enough to get everything else activated. So now we just need the lithium plates to make the cryogen plants, which we actually have. So those are made in assembly machines. And of course now it is nighttime, so nothing interesting is happening for a little bit. And we need to cover over that area to put a machine in. And you are going to make a cryogen plant. So we give you some of those, some of those, some of those, and some of those. And you have everything. Now we just make you more efficient. And hopefully we get there. So obviously none of that's doing anything until daytime. But this is starting to warm up. Let's throw the rest of this in and then also give you some rocket fuel. So hopefully this warms up enough for all this to happen. So once this gets going, this machine is going to be producing 20 water per second, which will be enough to keep this fully active, which should then make like 11 megawatts of power, which is so much compared to what we've been requesting up till this point. It'll be wonderful if we can just get all this going well enough to actually do it. We should be able to get power bootstrapped. We just need this to heat up a little bit. So that is going, that is going. We are up to 230 degrees Celsius. So we just have to wait a little bit longer for that to go. And it looks like it is daytime again, which means that production can start back up. In like, once this gets set up, the day-night cycle will be completely irrelevant to us because we won't need to worry about it because we're not going to be using solar power for anything because it's awful. So we just have to hold on until that happens. should be any second now. So this is slowly but surely producing our cryogen plant. And this is getting the heat going. Okay, honestly, let's just get another one on. Throw in some rocket fuel for you. Keep you fueled up. And do you have any more? No, you don't. So you can go back to Novice for another refuel, hopefully. Okay, so this is going, right? I haven't seen it produce anything in a while, but it is making it solid fuel. So this one will be able to run a little bit longer once we eventually run out of the fuel we're currently using. It would be so sad if we run out before we get this going. Alright, it seems slightly darker now. What happened? Did my night vision goggles run out or something? I have no idea. No idea why it's suddenly darker. Okay, so this... I mean, we just kind of have to wait for this to get booted up so that we can have power. Once we have power, all of this is going to run a lot faster. And then hopefully this solid fuel... Okay, let's do the math again. 2 of these guys. What is this doing? Oh, we need to get... We need to get rid of excess ice somehow. Okay. Let's yoink that stuff out. For now, that can be a temporary fix. So we're going to need to make sure that we use all... We're going to need to make sure that this just works in a correct ratio so that we can use all of the ammonium and all of the ice. Because otherwise this is going to get us soft locked like that again. But now that is set up. We can grab more of it from there. And keep the fuel going. This is at 410. You're almost at the point where this starts producing power. And once this starts producing power, then we should be in easy mode. So that's out of fuel. This only has 13 fuel. That one's out of fuel. Okay. We did finish this recipe though. So now we have a cryogenic plant. So if we just pop that down somewhere. Do you also need heating? Yes, you do also need heating. Fantastic. We're probably going to run out of fuel right before we get there. And we still need to figure out how to deal with this ice. Which I guess once we have power, we might just be able to speed beacon this. And then have it be fine. Alright, so that is dead. This one is almost dead. Yeah, we just barely didn't have enough. That's so annoying. We need to get this up just a little bit higher for this to get started. And I don't know, hopefully we won't decrease much in the meantime. But yeah, so hopefully this solid fuel will at least keep it somewhat stable, but it's not looking great. We need even more. In fact, I wonder if we just have to like make another copy of this so that we can have 2 of them, Because at least for what we're doing now, 1 is clearly not enough. So let's copy that. Add a space platform. Aquilo support 2. Create that above novice. And that's going to take a while to get set up. But hopefully we can get there. And I don't know, maybe this is already producing very minor net power and we can finish that off. Oh wait, I'm dumb. We have more in there. Alright, this is huge. So now we should definitely have enough then. I forgot that I didn't pick up every single available thing from that because it was so close to full. Alright, Aquilo Support 2 has been built. Now you can get that pasted in, and that is just going to be building in the background for a little bit. Alright, so now this can go. And with all 3 of these running again, this should hit temperature 500. It's almost there. And then we can have power. And once we have power, everything will be great. Alright, this is now officially producing steam, which means that this can go. And now we have power, which has gotten all that stuff running. Alright, so now that we have power, we need to figure out this whole ice situation. So that's not going to work. Alright, so if we just like grab another one of you out and get you heated up, then if we bring this ice out to somewhere, I don't know, then this heat pipe will have to go around like that. Then this would have to like go under so that the heat pipe can sneak along this way. To be honest, I don't even know what I'm trying to achieve here. I'm just sort of dragging this ice belt around until something changes. Alright, is there like anything at all I can do with ice? I can make cryogenic science packs if I have fluoro something or other, which requires fluorine, which I don't have and I don't know how to make. How do you make fluorine? That should be in here somewhere, right? Because it's gotta be in here. Why am I not seeing that? I don't know. Let's manually remove that ice again, just to keep that going. And then I guess in the short term we have a box. So that will at least keep this going happily for now. And then we need to do this whole belt nonsense to get that back up to here. And so I think the way that's going to work is you go underneath that. I need so many more heat pipes. Can I get you request like how many of these can be stacked? Only 50 at a time? That's fine. You request like 300 of them. Alright, so that is that. And then this belt, we have to just sort of get started on that, but I don't know how well this is going to last. I mean, we can just like manually ferry this stuff over. And hopefully that's fine. It also does seem like maybe it's capable of holding up over time. Like, if this can keep running continually, it might be enough to do everything we need it to. So now satisfaction is complete. And we need more heat pipes to do anything. This place is a mess. So what does this fancy new type of science give? Quantum processors. Okay, I guess that's an option. Captive biter spawners, but we can place them now. Quantum processors seem useless. Foundation would be great on Fulgora. Legendary quality is a nightmare, but something we're going to want to work with at some point. Rocket part productivity is neat, but not necessary. Alright, so just looking at these, I guess fusion reactor is a thing for power. There are not that many options here, honestly. We are... The amount of things we have to unlock here is literally like just fusion power, I guess. Alright, that's interesting. I guess it means it'll be relatively simple. So that's cool. Alright, so this seems to be working if we don't ignore this massive pile of ice that we have here, which I have no idea what I'm going to do with. So we can melt it down. We can use it for... There's some recipe in here that we needed ice for. But I don't know what. Fluoroketone. Ammonium. So we can make rocket fuel. I don't know how much we need to do that. I still don't know, like, this fluorine stuff is a bit of a mystery to me. And it's probably something in the... Where is it? The cryogenic plant. So we just pop you down. Surely one of these recipes is how you get fluorine, right? It's not steam, it's not explosives, or carbon, or any of that stuff. It's not another cryogenic plant. Alright. How does that work? How do we get fluorine? Factoripedia. Is there such a thing as fluorine? Gathered from fluorine vent. Alright. So there's the answer. And are there any such things? There's lithium brine down there. Crude oil over there. There is a fluorine vent up there. So I guess that is what we would be doing for that. Alright, this has a whole bunch of nuclear fuel on it, which hopefully won't be necessary anymore. There are only 32 heat pipes on Novice. How has that happened? Are they... Did I just miss something and they all got launched? No, there are none on the way. Oh, is it because some of these other recipes that we're doing need heat pumps? And so they're all getting yoinked to make, like... What, the heating towers, probably? Let's see, where did we make heating towers? They're in some weird spot. They're in here. Yeah, so we're yoinking all of our heat pipes to make heating towers, basically. Which means we don't have any to spare on the actual process we're trying to work on. Okay, so back over to here. we have this whole fluoroketone thing here, which produces hot fluoroketone. We then use that to make cold fluoroketone, which I don't know what we do with either of those. So, to Factoripedia. What are you used for? Where even are you? Yes, alright, so you are generated by a fusion generator and used to make that. Then this stuff is used to make a variety of things. So this is actually what we want. It makes the cryogenic science and quantum processors and some other stuff. And at some point we have to make a fusion generator or something. Alright, this sure is a whole giant complicated setup. We have 50 heat pipes launched so far. How fast is this production even going? Is this limited by... It's limited by the amount of steel, which actually it's just limited by belt speed or inserter speed, so let's get you going faster. So that goes faster, and now that will run a lot faster. It still seems to be limited by that inserter speed, and now it is actually limited by the amount of steel, so let's set that up to like 300 so that we get more steel delivered. And that is now going. Alright, so this... It's got 50. It's got another 50 on the way. That'll have to be good for now. So we are gonna... Did you just not wait for the rocket? Alright, that's fine, I guess. 50 should be enough. We can just build up a good solid supply of heat pipes for our next trip. Speaking of our next trip, how is Aquilo Support 2 going? Aquilo Support 2 is certainly doing its thing. Apparently it also needs heat pipes in order to just construct this nuclear setup. So that's fun. Okay, so back over to here. This seems to work just so long as we have something to do with all the excess ice. Now, can we just dump excess stuff into the void? That would be very handy if we could, but I somehow doubt that it'll be that simple. So first we need to gain access to this heat pipe in order to even try. Oh wait, no, we can't because we don't have that. Alright. Maybe we can just experiment in here? No. No ability to just dump ice into the ocean and forget about it. Sad. Which means we have to actually do something with all this ice. Which, I suppose just having a big enough power setup could work for that. So if we just have this just producing into a second heat exchanger would help a little bit with that. Okay, so if we take that guy out, take that guy out, because we don't actually need them, then we're going to need to... I could have sworn I had another one of these, right? In here somewhere. There you are. Alright, so we get you in. And then this... Oh, right. That's not good. We can't do that until we have more heat pipes in, because we need to connect it around. So we're going to have to wait for our new delivery before we can do that. So, all this ice, we genuinely just need to, like, launch it somewhere and destroy it. And is there ice platforms? Those also require ammonia, which means it wouldn't necessarily solve the problem. So we could just craft a bunch of ice platforms with that, and that would get rid of a lot of it, and also give us some useful stuff. I don't know, we're gonna have to think about this. I mean, we have an almost stable setup. We just need to remove the ice from this box every so often. We have an almost stable setup. We have power. We have nothing meaningful being produced. It's just sort of going in circles. But we have power, and I guess we can make more lithium plates and make another one of these. So there. We now will have 2 cryogen plants. So that's something at least. So yeah, we have power, we have a couple of cryogen plants. We are slowly making progress here. But I think we're going to wrap up for today. I have to spend some time just figuring out how on earth we're going to manage all this. And we're probably going to have to tear all of this out and rebuild it at least once, possibly 2 or 3 or 4 times, because this is very complicated. But we're going to wrap up there for today. So, thanks everyone for hanging out. I'll be doing Satisfactory tomorrow, where we are making neural quantum processors. And then we will be back here again on Wednesday. So, thanks everyone for hanging out. And I will see you guys next time.